early on, I used to say, okay, fear, I'm going to tackle what this fear is. I'll be able to bury it. I'll be able to fight it. What I realized is that embrace fear and love the idea that you have fear, because fear only comes because there's opportunity.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know. As I've always say, this is the favorite. Aha. Okay. Oh my God. I was so glad I can laugh at myself. Okay. Welcome back to Women We Should Know. And as those of you who tune in regularly are aware, this is always my favorite part of the week, my favorite part of the day, being able to sit down and have conversations with audacious, fierce women who are bringing changes to the world that are impacting our countries, our communities, even the planet herself. And to be able to bring those conversations to you makes it all the more juicy. So today, I have a wonderful woman that I am so excited to now know. Lisa has lived a life of transition. Any of you out there, women, know what that looks like? A life of transition. From federal prosecutor turned singer-actress, wellness expert, certified health coach consultant. Where did she come from? That is an amazing list of accreditations. She is a research coordinator and an acclaimed speaker. She is a model of resilience and determination. Women are, I always say, the definition of resilience. And she is just such a model of this. She is also the author of Yes, Commit, Do, Live. It's a book of transformational change. She is a career, life, and health transformational coach and an acclaimed wellness speaker. She is CEO of Embrace Your Fitness, LLC, and a health coach, trainer, and has served the Fitness Wellness Research Coordinator, served as the Fitness Wellness Research Coordinator at Rutgers. So she's done a couple things. She's been out there having a little bit of impact. I am so excited to have the opportunity to introduce you to this wonderful woman. Hi, Lisa. How are you today?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on this most brilliant show, Celebrating Women. I loved what you said when we first met about what you were trying to bring to the world, and it's an honor to be a part of it. I am doing well. Thank you very much, Miss Leslie.
Thank you, Lisa. I am excited to speak with you about all the things you've done and how you got into these seemingly disparate places doing amazing things. But before we get started, I have a little fun thing that I like to do, and that is to always ask my guests, what is not in your bio that you would love people to know about you?
So, what is not in my bio is that there is an absolute passion of mine in the area of poetry. And
Mm.
um, what has been such a blessing, and one of the things that I don't have is that I've been married for 34 years. I have 3 beautiful children. And it's amazing that 2 of them have entered into this world of poetry. They just write poetry. They have other careers that they do, but I think it just flows in the blood. And it is something that I think is a unique way of expression that connects you at your most innermost self and makes you so vulnerable in the words and expressions that you have. So don't talk about it often, but it's something that is never that far from me in my own celebration of poetry.
Oh, that is beautiful. And while I do not write poetry, I am an avid admirer of poetry and poets. We'll have to have that little side conversation later. I'd love to have the honor of seeing some of your work. So, prosecutor, actress, singer, and now this leading expert in health and wellness and development of oneself in that arena. Let's go all the way back to the beginning. What frightened you the most about taking the journey to become who you are now?
I love that question because I've spent so many years really looking at that concept of fear and how it has played such a critical role in my life in every step of the way, whether I did some things and didn't do some things. But I will say the earliest thoughts I had in my mind, even before I began professional career, was a fear of not doing. I had so many dreams of things I wanted to do, and I had a real fear that I wouldn't be able to do them. And I say that because I know other people that dance in that fear too. So fear can come in a lot of different ways. And I never wanted to feel like I was stuck somewhere or I couldn't move for whatever reasons. I know I've carried that with me. How I use that fear, that transition and changed a lot over my whole lifetime and still continues to grow and change and mature. But fear being one of those components to say, well, if I don't do this, what will my life be like? And, that's a flip of fear to say, I use fear as a way to kick my butt to make me do something that I want, that I think I will love, that touches some other part of my purpose, my soul. But there's maybe a thing standing in my way, such as being an attorney for 15 years. That's standing in my way. And then how do I beyond that? So fear just comes back, it's back and interwoven throughout every single decision. And it's just interesting to reflect where I've taken fear in a positive light or let it control.
That is a wonderful thing to say. What will happen? What will I feel like if I don't do this?
Yeah.
Because it's my experience. Please tell me if yours is different, because if so, I want to know your secret sauce. But it's my experience that fear doesn't ever completely go away. It may no longer apply to this thing or this action or the way I am present in these types of situations. But it seems to have this incredible ability to migrate and just attach itself to something else.
Yeah, I love the way you say that, because early on, I used to say, okay, fear, I'm going to tackle what this fear is. I'll be able to bury it. I'll be able to fight it. I had a lot of other words I used about fear. And what I realized is that we do different things with fear. I don't care what it is. Either you deny that you have it, you pretend you're over it, or you, I say face it or you fall to it. Facing it I decided, and I will say that I wholeheartedly had to decide this when I entered the world of singing a little later in life. And I'm going in auditions and I'm auditioning for shows and I'm singing up against people that have done this for their career. Imposter syndrome kicks in. And either you are going to embrace fear and love the idea that you have fear, because fear only comes because there's opportunity. If I was living a non-boring, just doing everything and nothing is challenging in any way, there's very few things that are going to cause me fear. If fear comes like that, it's because on the other side of fear is some kind of amazing thing that could transform me for a physical thing or transform me for something internal. Once I made that new relationship, then I look at it as an opportunity. So, okay, fear comes my way. What does it do to me physically? Let me transition what those things that maybe I physically feel when I'm in fear as from negative to positive.
Right.
It just means it's exciting. It just means I'm engaged. It just means, you transition what you call it, the words that you're experiencing. And it's amazing that what the body will do as a result of it. Doesn't mean my leg might not shake because I'm going in to do something, means that my leg shakes and I say, man, I'm present. I'm ready. This means this is something I really want. I can transition the internal dialogue. And that was what was completely instrumental in every audition I stepped my foot into, that I could really march into it with the knowledge that, okay, fear is because it's something new or it's something challenging, or it's something that is going to catapult me in a whole different direction I never thought possible. Either I walk through it or I fall by the wayside and I let it prevent me from my excellence on the other side.
Right. That is powerful, to actually feel the fear and say, oh, I'm on the edge. Something's happening here. That is a really different approach than anyone I've ever heard.
Dance with it. A dance partner, when you're learning something new, maybe you have to dance this way, that way. Every dance will be a little different with a different partner, just from what you said, when the fear comes. It's not like it's the same steps. But if I know that we're stepping together, we just got to figure it out. It's a different way of approaching it. And it was very relieving to me because I found that I could not tamp it. It does not ever go away for good.
Right.
That's the case, then
much to our chagrin.
Yeah, then I best make it something that's a part. If I start to feel that inkling, it's my cue that this is something I should do. This is something that holds possibility. This is something that's new to me, and it's challenging me, and I want to be challenged. I love that. So I put challenge with love. It changes how it the physical side of how it comes into your body, because your internal dialogue is different.
That blows my mind just a little bit. And I love it when something blows my mind a little bit. So a dance, that's so beautiful, because once you learn how to dance, there's a fluidity to it. What processes or thoughts do you have when you're in that place of learning that new dance? What is it that you do that our listeners could say, oh yes, I could play with that. I could start apply that.
Yes. Well, I love the idea of first, you have to acknowledge it. And that may sound small, but a lot of people never take that step.
Oh, that's huge. That is huge.
And I read a book one time that was saying, if you just block it, like block it all up, and you're in this pretense, and for some people, maybe that can hold them for a period of time, but to me, you're building up a floodgate. Yes. And if one little hole comes through it and boom, it comes in.
Right.
And now, so if you acknowledge that this is where I am,
right,
and then you seek to understand, piece of this fear. So here we are, I'm in this fearful state. What's going on? What is the understanding? Because as a dance partner, I need to understand what your moves are, what you're trying to achieve, why you're doing what you're doing, so I can follow or help you to follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And understanding the fear, knowing, for instance, okay, fear is emanating from the fact that it's a career change and I'm walking into this boardroom and now I'm thinking, and this is completely different. I know and I understand why it's here. Now I have
Mm-hmm.
an understanding, and you can move more into a level of embracing it. So you say, okay,
Right.
I'm walking in this boardroom. All right, but here's the scoop. I've done my homework. I've done my work. I know what I'm going to be
Mhm.
saying. This is all internal. I know
Right.
exactly. I understand you are excited, but let's use that excitement so that when I express myself in whatever I'm doing, I'm singing, I'm speaking, I'm doing whatever it is, that I can harness this beautiful energy you're giving me, Mr. Fear, in a positive direction to make me even more engaged and brilliant.
When you say, I know you're excited, to actually have that kind of communication with your fear, that is so powerful.
That's really trying to say, I understand, I acknowledge, and I want to move us through this relationship, right? Because those two
Right.
things are just the beginning of it. Now I understand. Now, how can we work together
Right.
to do this thing we have to do? I don't have to be an opposite to you. I don't have to be worried about you, and you don't have to be worried about me. We can come together to do this thing and do it brilliantly.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's flutters in the stomach, if it's whatever it is,
Uh-huh.
you know you can channel that into being more brilliant in the place that you are. And I truly believe that when you're able to do that, that's the difference between two presenters coming in, both equally knowledgeable, both equally
Mhm.
on paper, coming in to do something. One person leaves an imprint, the other person not so much. And a
Right.
lot of it has to do with now they've channeled the best in all facets of them. And you get a real person, not someone that's half the person tamping down some other half of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's a full expression of who they are. And it's freeing. When you do it, it is freedom. And
Absolutely. I can see that. So what I believe I understand you to be saying is, instead of all of the old processes and what have you of trying to get rid of the fear, we partner with it. And we actually, even if I'm hearing you correctly, we take a nurturant role with it,
yes,
which helps it to calm. Am I hearing you correctly?
yes, it is exactly it, because now we can calm down the, uh, that frantic energy
Yes.
is really just a piece of you wanting you to be successful, scared you're not, afraid for this and that. You might have carried it from childhood, wherever you carry it from,
Right.
by talking, by acknowledging and having this kind of, you are a nurturer to yourself, and
Yes.
you're able to channel. So you don't want to tamp it down that it's nothing. No, that energy is fabulous.
Right.
That's the thing. You hear of singers, I don't know if it was Beyonce that was talking about, the reason she said Sashay Fierce, she calls herself by a different name, is because
Right.
she had huge nerves. She didn't get rid of the nerves. She channeled it in a different way. You
Right.
hear people, I don't care what the career is, the ones that are able to really, I think, take it to the heights of what their brilliance, what they were internally purpose to do, is because they're not denying any piece of who they are. And they're saying that all of them are beneficial, all of them are beautiful. I don't have to say this part of me is bad. Why is that bad? And no, it's
Right.
just, it needs help. On its own, it can take you in different places, but if you can incorporate it, wow, what power.
Yes. Many of the most who I appreciate the most deeply, and evidently other people do too, because they're big names, speak to their fear, speak to their imposter syndrome. I remember seeing Meryl Streep in an interview talking about how she feels like an imposter all the time. And the tape in her head is, and you don't even know how to act anyway. How many Oscars does she have?
How
So-
many would it take?
yes, yes. But she's doing that. Somehow she's doing what you're speaking to, is taking that and letting that propel her.
So many people are in the state of retreat, active retreat all the
Mhm.
time.
Right.
I would say, I remember in college, this was it ended up being something I really would reflect on, but I was doing acting in college. And you know what, darn it, I was really good. And my professor wanted to set me up, me and two other people, with an agent that was visiting from LA at the time. And I'll never forget, the agent was on the other side of the door. And all I had to do was open it and go in. But I said to myself, you're going to go to law school. This doesn't make sense. You shouldn't meet him. He probably's not going to like. I had all of this very between me and the door.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided, you know what? It's not for me. I'm just not going to do it. And I really had to look at, that's how it is for people. That's a example of my life, but it literally is usually a door between you and whatever you were intended, or whatever opportunity, or whatever conversation or relationship, put whatever you want to put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And either you keep the door closed because you didn't want to dance with us, and you don't know what you miss. Maybe you missed no opportunity, maybe you did. You will never know.
Right.
You didn't try. You didn't walk. And so,
well, you will never know unless you take the Lisa path and turn around and go back to that.
That's exactly right.
A number of years
That
later.
is exactly right. Said to my agent, my first agent, I said, I don't know. You could have been on the other door. I didn't open the door, but here you are.
Here you are now.
Here
And
you are now.
first of all, what belief did you have to sacrifice to be able to leave law and follow that other path, that other door that you hadn't opened earlier?
I'm going to say the biggest pathway, and this is just for anyone, but for me, was the first time I truly asked myself, who am I?
Uh-huh.
I asked myself that question, and I didn't have a ready answer. And it scared me. I said, wow, I was giving the answers that people always give about their careers, their titles. And once I started asking myself, and I couldn't go to these events where people just introduce, and I would always think like, well, but you really don't know something about them. So
right.
I want to know who you are. And for me to ask that question, I have to know who I am. Delve into it in the deepest levels, because those are the things that help to move you forward or to keep you back. If you don't know it, you could be stuck and not even know why you're stuck. I think once I had that going for me, honestly, I started doing a lot of things on the side. I was singing on the side, a little show on the side, and some of the FBI agents would come to see me and my jazz performance. And someone once said to me, when are you going to do what you do on the side as your career? I thought, I love that. Like, I can do that. Like, I can do this, because we have so much, we have so many gifts. We all have so many talents. You starting a podcast, like you didn't have a podcast for 29 years, what makes someone say like, okay, now I'm going to do this.
Oh, you are so kind. No, it was just 29 years that I didn't have a podcast.
We can be at 29 for a while. I love it.
I love that.
But
you know what pops out in my awareness as you're speaking about this, doing it on the side and then taking it up and going back through that door that you didn't earlier, is you spoke of having 3 amazing children.
Yes.
The impact on them to see their mom, who they adore, being this bold, this courageous, this audacious. How have they responded to all of this?
I love that. I love the idea that each of them are so uniquely themselves and
Mhm.
in their choices. So, you know, my eldest, who has a job with the Department of Justice, but on the side has his own. He knows and taught himself coding, and
Oh,
has a business that he does and thrives in. That's super creative in the code and scientific and mathematical way. But I love that it wasn't that I just do this one thing and I have these other talents and I have to tamp them.
nice.
My daughter, who started off on a road where she was going to go to law school, and I used to always say, "Is that what you want to do?" I'm like, "Know what you want." Um, Ended up discovering, you know what? After working at a law firm, I really want to go back to school. I want to be in public health. Happen to be in public health, which is a brilliant time to be in public health right now. But also writes poetry. Also knows how to make handbags. Is an avid gardener, wants to have a farm, has a concept of life that's not um, linear, but multifaceted simultaneously. Um, and I wanted to say my youngest, which I love, plodding along with the way that everyone, you go to college, then you get out, you have a job, and decided in the second year of college, you know what, mom, I want to be an electrician and I'd like to leave college and, do this other thing. And at the time, he hadn't really shown. My husband had a joke. We have things break around the house. He never really showed an affinity, but he had research and he saw something. He had the ability to say, you know what? I know what's the tradition. I know what's happened, but here's my road. To me, I couldn't ask for anything more than that because it is such a unique path we all travel.
Mhm.
And all I want for people is to be in touch with what is your uniqueness, what is your path,
Mhm.
and are you bold enough to say against tradition, against colleagues, against
Mhm.
fellow lawyers saying you're nuts, against, are you
Yes.
able to say, no, this is me, this is an expression of me? You're able to
Oh,
do that. I'm just thankful to God for that. So I think all of them have that piece of them, that
what a
resilience.
beautiful gift you gave to them. And I'm going to just assume, we don't normally want to assume, but I'm going to assume in this case that they got some of that from their dad too. But
Yeah.
you but what
Let
a
me put that in
beautiful
there. He's really instrumental too. Let's rewind the tape. Yes.
he's a full member of the team.
He's a full member of the team.
That's great.
That's
But
great.
I am guessing, but I don't want to assume on this one, that you have been far more trusting of your gut than what you have been dependent on linear planning in order to have this great big life that you have lived up and are still in the middle of.
I'm going to agree with that 100%. I listen. And I was just talking, I was on a show this morning where we were talking about um, where do I get a chance to listen? So anyone I'm talking to or meeting, I really focus on the listening side, but listening to yourself. And in the quiet of the night, in the moments of sleep, when the mind is so relaxed,
Mm.
and then when you go to sleep with an intentionality, which I often do, and I'll say, I'm going to be speaking, or I have this, and I really want to hear. And it is when just the greatest answers will come if you'll allow.
Mm.
I used to, I had, when I was in the acting, and I love the role Streetcar Named Desire, the play Streetcar Named Desire, and Blanche. And someone had said to me once, well, you'll never play that role because it's, you're Black and the role's not for Black. And a teacher said that once. I remember how upset I was at the time, young in college. And so flash forward when I'm in acting, and one of the roles I applied for was an all Black cast of Streetcar Named Desire played. It was amazing. And I got the role of Blanche, and this is a dream. But then I came home and realized I have to learn this play.
Right.
And it all hinges on what Blanche does. And this fear had dropped in me. And the power of being able to listen to my internal dialogue about how to best learn a role, and how to use the power of sleep to learn a role, and to learn things, and to learn lines, and to do new things, and to wake up refreshed and ready because of this amazing internal source that we all have, to really take in our environment and have a new way of our approach in the morning if we'll listen.
That is fabulous. And it certainly has me reflecting, and will for some time, because when those of us like you and I who speak with a lot of people, in order to speak with a person well, you must listen. But as you are speaking about this, I get this sense that you've discovered a deeper well. So I thank you for that. I will be contemplating that, as I bet will many of our audience members today, that deeper well of listening. And speaking about that deeper well of listening, you had this wonderful career acting, doing jazz shows, performing at Carnegie Hall, not once, but twice. Oh my goodness, congratulations. But then you went into this new phase that has been vastly fulfilling for you. How did that transition from the stage into wellness bring itself into your life?
Well, the commonality is a deep understanding of my own personal expression and what I want to give. Loving to work with and present to people a way of enriching their lives. And at the same time, enriching mine. And when I found myself with a vocal injury and unable to express myself in that way in song, or even on stage at that initially, I was about 80 pounds heavier, and I had struggled with weight for my whole life, just on and off, but up and down, just up and down the scale. And it was really, they used to have an expression, this monkey on your back. It was just this thing that I could never really wrap my mind around 100%. Right. So at that moment, I just took the time to wrap my mind around it 100%. Figure it out. Like, I just didn't want to go on a diet, and I didn't want to do anything gimmicky. And I was tired of all this crap that was in my house, which were just a series of me paying for a lot of things that don't work.
Right.
And I took the time to figure it out. And I loved it. I was like, oh my goodness. You mean I could have done this 20 years ago, 30 years ago, and had these kind of results, and it didn't have to make me kill myself, and I didn't have to jump over and jump on and run 20 miles, and I didn't have to do any of that, and I could do it in a way that was helpful and to my joints. And once I found this, and I just said I wanted not one more person to kind of go through some of the misinformation I went through. That was the impetus for everything. it frustrates me. It still frustrates me every holiday season when I see the commercial season. And it's like, oh, it's like crazy commercials with
Yes,
is pretending like they're doing equipment, and they'll say that they just saw that equipment the day of the shoot.
that's right. That's right. You help them understand their brains. Now, brains, I'm a big brain science geek, and I understand, well, as much as I do, about how it impacts every single thing of our life. You are the first person I've seen that approaches health and wellness by putting the brain in a prominent position
Yes.
of education. And it makes absolute sense. What can you say just briefly for our audience to help them understand why it is so important to include the brain in your health and wellness program?
Everything you do or don't do, every move that you make or don't make, is all associated with this wonderful thing between our ears. The relationship that you have with the world, your thoughts, whether they be negative or positive, and all of the things that happen as a result of that stress is all a reflection of what's going on between your ears. So, what I learned with my stint at Rutgers was, as health practitioners, if we're not nurturing and helping people to understand how to nurture their brains in their body and make a connection, you are really missing a major component of wellness.
Mm,
So I, learned through that process at being at the lab the importance of sleep,
mhm,
breathe, the way you eat, the way you move, and
mhm.
all of those things are going to yield longevity. I mean, when
Right.
people talk about living long, they don't talk about living long but not knowing their name or not knowing their address or not being able to engage. You think about living long and living fully engaged with individuals. And so, with that in mind, there's some really little things you can do to really grow brain cells. I say, hey, you want to grow some gray and white brain cells? Here's some things to do. Um, and it's just going to increase, I think, the quality. It's not just the quantity, but it's the quality of your life all the way through. I love that you said about putting the brain prominently.
Mhm.
And it's amazing to me when I was first talking about brain fit and some of the programs I had, and someone said, well, why don't you call it mind fit? Just say mind, because people don't like to hear the word brain. I said, well, they might not want to hear it, but they have it. And I think it elevates the fact that no, mindset, that's in the brain. It's a part, it's a
That's right.
subset. Let's call it what it is. Let's live in where we are and the truth of it. And
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be a negative. I love the idea that you can still grow brain cells. I love the idea that today, our conversation, you saying some things I'm not familiar with, it's causing me to make new connections,
Yes.
my own internal mechanism within my brain. That's exciting to me. So
Mhm.
get out, make as many of those connections as you can, keep your brain growing and fresh and alert, so it can serve you in the things
Yes.
you want to do. Then when it's health fear, because this is on a whole other thing, health fear, there's a lot of health fear. I don't want to go to
A
the
lot
doctor.
of health fear.
I'm sick. Okay. But if you're sick, then you can do something. So
Right.
health fear is a real prominent one. And it only can be enhanced more for some people as they get a little older. They get more health fear for
Mhm.
um,
Right.
kind of marching that certain dance with fear and all of that. It still has a play even in the health side of things, because
Yes.
the dance continues. It's just in a different arena, and how we will deal with it, and even how we'll deal with whatever news there is. That's
Right.
an important thing too. That's, don't be afraid of the news. Now we have a way of dealing with the news, not in a dreadful downturn way, but now we can uplift ourselves with all these wonderful things we can do to confront or combat or work with whatever diagnosis we have. I did a wonderful program with some young ladies who had lupus,
Mm.
and we were talking about the fear of episodes.
Mm.
So when the lupus episodes happen, they can be extremely painful. and it can hit your body in different ways depending on, who you are. And they were fairly young ladies, and to have that young, which is not the most usual time of diagnosis, and
Mhm.
we're talking about what do you do to manage that fear, right?
Right.
If you're fearful of something that's going to come and you're fearful of the pain may be associated with it, you may
Mhm.
get into that shutdown mode, what people do, where they don't want to allow it to happen. And what we were working with instead is flowing through the fear, and therefore flowing through the pain, and therefore
Mm.
allowing relaxation to come in the body, so that where there was these places, you could breathe through it and allow it to flow. And that was just one example of, instead of living in that fear of what to come, and then the pain being that much greater, because fear will,
It will exacerbate.
we could flow, we could breathe, we could work through it. Didn't make it go away. It's not what
Right.
we were, yeah, but we were trying to find these ways that we don't have to be an opposite to one another internally.
That's fabulous. Now, I know there are a lot of you out there saying, I want to know more about this. Well, I will be doing for you as I always do for you. You go to the website, lesliemichaels.com/podcast, and you find Lisa Charles, her URL, the contact information she chooses to share, the name of her book, access to her programs. It will all be there for you. I have you covered. I'm not going to forget about you. Haven't yet? Don't plan to. So know that as Lisa's speaking about these wonderful things that she's doing with people, even this study she did with the young women with lupus, if that caught your attention, go to the program notes, and everything you need to know in order to connect with her to learn more will be there. Lisa, this has been so much fun. Now I could sit here and talk for another hour. That's the only downside of this podcast. I get on here with women like you, and then my timer's going off, and I'm thinking, well, I'm not through. I'm not through having this conversation, but there it is. We'll get to have it off camera. Thank you so, so much for coming on today and sharing from your wisdom and your life.
Well, thank you, Leslie. I am happy and humbled, actually, to be one of your guests on what I know is just a tremendous service to so many people across the globe. So thank you.
You are most welcome. And for all of you out there, now I know you got more than one nugget today. And that is thrilling to me that you are able to come and spend a little bit of time with Women We Should Know, and get these juicy little nuggets that are going to help to enhance your life, because that's what it's all about, isn't it? That is what we as women do. That is what we as women have the power to do, because of the fact that we are natural sharers and community builders. We have the power to uplift each other in ways that we don't even realize. And I look forward to the new ways that we all discover individually and collectively. So when you go to the podcast page and you're looking for Lisa's information, be sure and like, subscribe, and leave a comment. For those of you who've been with us before, you know, but for the new people, I'll let you in on our little pattern. When you leave a comment for Women We Should Know, we address that for you. When you leave a comment for the guest, we pass that on to them so that they can be in contact with you. And so this is a way for you to continue to let us know what you appreciated, what you would like to see more of. So click subscribe, and share a comment. And as we close out today, I just want to remind you, you are stronger and wiser than you know.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope you received inspiration for expanding your own social innovation and influence. Help us inspire others by sharing this episode and leaving your comments over at lesliemichaels.com/podcast. For more tips, insights, and support in creating a fully audacious, professional, and personal lifestyle you love, visit our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.